small store in the old city of Jerusalem contains one of the hidden gems of the Holy Land. Dozens of rare pictures that tell us the story of Jerusalem throughout the radical changes it endured in the last 100 years. Surprisingly, the man behind it is Armenian.
This store was opened by my grandfather. He was born in southeast Turkey, in Urfa. In 1915, he was a survivor of the Armenian genocide, and he lost all his family. All of them were massacred in front of his eyes when he was about 4.5, 5 years old, and he was left with his mother on a death march towards the Syrian desert. His mother decided to give him away to a stranger just to give him the chance of life. She gave him away to a Kurd that was passing by the group, and as soon as this Kurd took him beyond the hill, he remembers gunshots, screams, and after a few moments, total silence. Basically, his mother knew this was the end of the road, and she did everything she could to save her son. He managed to survive half a year in the streets of Urfa. Can you imagine a 4.5-year-old kid all by himself? It's almost impossible. I don't know how he did it, but he did manage to survive for half a year until the Americans, this is very, very well documented, the American Near East Relief Foundation, they gathered 100,000 Armenian orphans like my grandfather and brought them to the Middle East. One of his teachers in the orphanage was a photographer. He used to take him field photographing, not to teach him, but back then the negatives were big glass plates, 8 by 10 inch. So 5, 6 of these, you need a strong kid to carry. He was the strongest.
Elia continues his business during the British Mandate and becomes a military photographer, something that helps him to survive another hardship in the region.
War was about to break out, 1948. 2 days before the 48 riots, a British officer, one of his friends that worked with him, comes and tells him, you better take out your stuff, there's going to be trouble. He even brings 2 big military trucks to help him transport all the equipment and the negatives of the pictures you see behind you to the Armenian quarter, to the basement. Everything was burnt and ransacked. You can see Mamela burning, and above Mamela, the 3 shops of my grandfather, even though they were empty, they were still torched. But luckily for us, everything was safe in the Armenian quarter. When this happened, in 1948, he lost the shops outside the walls. He opened this shop in 1949 under Jordanian rule. Everybody thought he was crazy. Who would open a business in the middle of the war, right? He never looked back. He always looked forward. He was a survivor. And at the end of '67 war, when everybody had to start over, he was already well established, doing weddings and studio pictures and everything else.
The pictures of Elia and his family captured some of the most exciting moments in the history of Jerusalem. Here, we can see an Arab fortune teller forecasting the future of a Jewish client. Another photograph shows us how Jews marked the fasting of Tisha B'Av dozens of years ago.
They came here to cry. They came here to mourn. They came here to remember that this was once a city that was thriving and filled with vitality, but alas, in their days, going back a century or more, the case was no longer that this was a city filled with life and vitality.
Living as members of the Armenian minority inside one of the most troubled places in the Middle East doesn't disturb Elia. On the contrary, he sees it as an opportunity to capture the beauty of this complex and fascinating place.
Jerusalem is like a beautiful mosaic. It's made out of all different stones, colors. If you take one of the stones out, the picture won't be complete.